in terms of any actions you take, in terms of what's happening in your life, or in terms of goals you set. So it's like mastering your emotions before you do anything is just totally imperative. And I'm going to share with you here why that is, why your emotions and are more important than say anything else. And it's not just your emotions, it's your thoughts, your it's your thoughts, your emotions, your physical sensations, and what's actually happening in your body is all part of the same energy system. It's all part of the same continuum. So for example, you might have a thought, maybe a negative thought, and then you might have a negative feeling or emotion from it, and from that would be felt in your body, you know, as a sensation. You might feel a little bit of contraction or some kind of nervousness or anxiety, whatever it is, depending on the thought you had. And eventually these emotions become solidified into the body. So depending on the kind of your natural way of your sort of frequency, that is your normal frequency, will impact how your how your life is turning out, and secondly how you feel within your own body. Because everything is like, from the thought would be like the lightest aspect of it. Initially it's energy, and then your mind receives it as a thought. Your mind will capture a thought, and that would lead to a thought, an emotion or a feeling, and then sensations in your body. And then eventually, depending on the kind of thoughts and feelings that you have most of the time, it will lead to what's actually happening within your body. So for example, chronic disease will be like when you've lived maybe with certain beliefs that don't serve you, certain kinds of thought patterns that don't serve you. Maybe you spend time feeling anxious or fearful or guilty or shameful about things, and eventually these kind of things, they contract your energy field, they contract what is available to you. It's almost like if you were free flowing, more energy can pass through you, you have more resources, more insights available. But when you're like in the low energy states of guilt, shame, fear, anxiety, everything becomes more contracted. There's less resources available for you, and also to be aware what's manifesting in your life now, in your physical, in your body and in your life, is sometimes a result of what was happening a while ago. So it's like, it's not what's happening now, because as you move down the energetic continuum, from thoughts to emotions to sensations to physical matter and manifestations, it takes time. So the lower ones are obviously, the heaviest, the densest part takes a while to manifest. Okay, so just to be aware of that. Things don't shift very quickly, but they can, but often they don't, because habitually we tend to stay at a sort of certain kind of energetic state. It's like a thermostat, emotional thermostat. Where are you habitually based? Are you on like the frequencies of love and gratitude and appreciation, or are you more on like in the struggle and having to and working hard and all of those types of things? So just to be aware of that. And the reason I talk about emotions more than thoughts is that thoughts are very fast, they're fleeting, they happen, we're not even aware of our thoughts a lot of the times, unless maybe when you're meditating and you're thinking, oh wow, my mind's very busy, it's always thinking. You're more able to detect your emotions because they're a little bit slower, they're a little bit more fluid, and you can feel them in your body. And sensations are just a slightly denser, slightly slower level. So maybe if you're meditating, if you're in tune with your body, you might be able to connect more with your emotions as well, with your physical sensations. And eventually the emotions that are unprocessed, or emotions that stay in the body, or your habitual, these will become the physical manifestations, for example, illnesses or disease. Eventually that might happen, but it does take a long time. So it could be like, chronic things can take a long time to manifest, but we can start to release them very quickly as we start to change our thoughts and our emotions. So I'm just going to see what is the next slide. Yes, we already saw. So the lower energy states are more disempowered. You have fewer resources available. It's you've got to see emotions as a continuum as well. Say, for example, if we just like thoughts, emotions, sensations, they can all be a continuum in terms of feeling really good to feeling not so good. So depending on where you are on that scale will decide how much energy you have available to you. The higher up you go, you're in a more expanded state. So the connections you're making are more empowering. The people you meet, the situations you have. It's more like having. Somebody mentioned this. It's more like looking for answers to questions rather than problems to solve. So when you're in the lower energy states, often there might be a lot of drama going on. There might be a lot of stuff that you have to deal with. You're less proactive but more reactive. And also when you're in that kind of state, you also have fewer resources, your ability to find the right information might not be as strong. It's more of a struggle. Life feels more of a struggle. It's more tiring and more exhausting. And so what my thinking, my experience is that if you start to change your thoughts and your emotions, you can start to impact your reality quite quickly. So the other thing that I want to mention here is that even though you feel physical, you feel like you have a solid body, but most of even the most solid substances on our planet or in the universe, they're mostly space, because an atom, essentially you're made of atoms at the basic level. So an atom is 99.999% space, and in this diagram you can't see it, but the middle, the nucleus, is just tiny proportion of an atom, and the rest, the electrons are also not like solid bodies. They're more like wave particles, so it's more like an energy field around. And when you even look at the nucleus, the densest part of an atom, it is mostly, it breaks down into smaller and smaller components. It's not solid. Nothing is solid in our universe. It's all sort of movement and particles and energy and wave functions and frequencies and such things. And so are you. So depending on where the type of emotions or your thoughts you're habitually having will determine where you are on that continuum of the wave function and what is available to you. In the higher frequencies, you have a lot more insights, things that it's like almost like having quantum leaps in whatever you're trying to achieve, whereas in the lower frequencies there is more of a struggle. So we do, but we sort of have this idea of this is who I am, and this is how I always am. So this the space between us is what connects us. So everything is space, even the most solid aspects. Your body is mostly space, and this space, it's light, this energy, this frequency is what permeates everything. It's the one thing that is forever constant. It connects objects at a huge distance away. It's the one uniformity. The underlying space structure is the one uniformity, and I think that is what how your emotions and the frequency of your emotions is able to impact what's actually happening in your world. You know, so depending on where you are in your thoughts and your emotions will determine what kind of space matrix that you are connecting to, and what kind of experiences you're attracting in your life. Okay, I know it seems a bit metaphysical, but I've used this, I've practiced this, so I do know that it does seem to work. So I have, like, you know, I don't share anything that I've not actually tried myself. And the other thing is quite interesting to share as well, is that to be aware of all the movement that's happening around us. So for example, you know, you're at a fundamental level, you're made of atoms and those electrons, those nuclei are all energy particles vibrating and moving. So this, you're not really solid, even though you might think that you are. And okay, and so the Earth is actually, you know, and we're living on a planet that is spinning on its axis. I think it's like 10,000 miles an hour or something like that, very fast, and it's faster at the equator than it is at the poles because of the larger diameter. So we are on a planet that is spinning on its axis. This planet is also spinning around the sun. So, you know, it takes a year to do a circle around the sun. So, but our classical model makes us think that there are cycles being repeated, you know, like every year, every summer and autumn and winter. So it gives that kind of illusion of being some kind of cyclical, but some kind of permanence. But what's actually also happening is that our sun, that the Earth is spinning around our solar system, our sun is also circling the Milky Way galaxy, the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And I think it takes millions of years for it to do that. And I just looked it up, and it was like 750 kilometers per hour or something. That's the speed the sun's. So the Earth is following the sun while the sun is also moving. So maybe this carries on at, you know, at different levels as well. But just to be aware that you're never in the same space twice. You are moving through time and space at a very, very fast rate. So just to have that knowledge that habitually you have this idea, one, that you're made of space, and secondly, that you're moving through space and time very, very fast. So to have this idea that this is me, this is who I am, this is how I've always been, it is a bit of an illusion. But we tend to maintain that kind of personality, the personhood, because it's very sort of strong gravitational pull attached to it. But just be aware how much energy it takes to maintain that sense of self, or what the self that you've been, and the personality that you are, when you are being exposed to new experiences, new thoughts, new insights all the time. So when we're trying to maintain something, we're closed off on all of that. But whereas if you start to process things as they happen, process your emotions, you know, like some of the so-called negative emotions, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just they need to be felt and processed and neutralized, so they move through you. So you're not sort of pushing them down and holding them and you know, not dealing with them. So we will look at that in the future episodes of this series, how to deal with your emotions and how to process them. So just to be aware, so this sense of being made of space, moving through space and time at a very fast rate, but you're holding on to who you are. So just maybe being open to the possibilities that change is possible, that change might not be such a bad thing, that it is possible for you to have different experiences, different types of experiences in your life, rather than what's happened so far. Just being open to that possibility. Okay. So one of the things I thought we'd talk about is a very simple method to start to change your energetic frequency that a lot of people talk about, and that is called affirmations. So affirmation is something that it's normally the opposite to what you might believe by yourself, and then you sort of come up with an empowering sentence, and then you say it over and over again, and it's supposed to eventually sink in and help you with what's, what might be going on in your life. Okay, so affirmations don't work because they feel like lies. They feel like that nobody's. They feel like lies. They feel like something that doesn't feel true on the inside. It feels like you're trying to believe something, but it's not actually true for you yet. So what I would recommend instead is to change your affirmations into empowering questions. And how you do that is by changing the statement, whatever you have. So, you might have a belief system about that why does my life never work out for me, for example. Okay, so, and then you can do an affirmation which says, my life's always working out for me. Okay, so you say, my life's always working out for me, but there's something, you can say it, but there's something doesn't always ring true. So what you can do with that instead, to make it more powerful and to use your brain's habitual desire to answer your questions, is to turn it into a question. So rather than saying everything's working out for me, you say, why is everything working out for me? So what that does is it allows your brain to go and start to search for instances and answers where things were working out for you. Okay, so we're going to I'm actually going to link to a video that I did about this, and I think it really does work. And it's so because your mind is forever answering questions, so you actually ask it a question and it will answer it for you. Okay, and just write a few sentences. For example, some of the things that you might say to yourself, some of the disempowering things that you say to yourself, and you just write them down, and then you think of the exact opposite of what like a more of an empowering affirmative statement, but then you change the affirmation into a question. Okay, and then just see, and you just ask yourself that question, and sometimes it takes a while before you get an answer to it, because you're so used to thinking in it. The mind's built a groove. It's forever answering the same question, the negative one, and leading to the negative emotion and the negative sensations in the body. But when you give it a different question, it sort of almost has to stop, and it's like a surprise for the brain. It's a really interesting experience, and then it has to go looking for the answer. Why are things working out for you? So you just start to look for that answer and see what is what actually happens, and then start to write down those reasons. Look for more and more reasons why things are always working out for you. So it's just changing a disempowering belief into an affirmation, and then changing that affirmation into a question. And rather than how, just ask why. Why seems to definitely give me much better responses. Okay, so what's next here? So what we covered so far: you're a vibrational being, and your thoughts and your emotions determine the type of information that you have access to. Okay, and that is very, very true, because when you're having a bad day, or when you're in a negative pattern, and everything feels ends up being very similar, and conversely, when you're having a positive day, when you're in that kind of positive spiral, other nice things keep happening as well. We've all had those kind of experiences when when you're in a positive spiral, and also when you're in a negative spiral. And so just to, before you take any action, before you do anything, before you make any plans, do something to make yourself feel better. And then whatever action you take will be that much more impactful for you. It will get you where you want to be faster. It's almost like having a different perspective on life. It will give you totally different options and solutions that are available to you. Yeah, so to be more resourceful, to make better connections, to be provided with better information, better resources, you need to feel good and then take action, like what I said. And the analogy here is the butterfly and caterpillar, okay? So for example, say if a caterpillar wanted to cross a field or a park or wherever it is, it's going to be a very different journey than for the butterfly. You know, the caterpillar is going to have so many, it's going to take forever, and it's going to have so many more challenges that the butterfly will never face, because her viewpoint, her perspective is so different, and she's just going from flower to flower to flower, having fun, yet getting there much faster. So it's just changing your perspective from being, you know, in the place and very small to being more in having a higher perspective on things. And we will sort of look at some of these things. So that's everything for today, for so far. And I hope you enjoyed it. And please leave me some comments. Let me know what was useful for you and what, if anything, wasn't. And I'd be there to answer your questions. And I look forward to speaking with you. And please join me next week, same time, where we'll be delving deeper into how to master your emotions. So today we talked about why mastering your emotions is important. So next week we will talk about how to start to master your emotions. Okay, so until then, stay happy.